So hello, I'm Jeffrey Haskett. I'm the president of National Wildlife Refuge Association. I've been asked to come here and talk about some of the environmental problems this wall will cause Santa Ana National Wildlife Refuge. But before I do that, I want to let you know I've been sitting over here listening to everybody, and this has been an incredibly moving day. Just the passion between all the speakers and just, the truth they're telling has been very, very moving to me. And I think I've been here to ask about the environmental reasons, and I'll do that, but it's all important. And I just really appreciate being here. It's an honor to be here. I need to tell you a little bit about the Refuge Association. It's a nonprofit that's exclusively focused on protecting and promoting 850 million acres of national wildlife refuge system, of which the Santa Ana Refuge is a 2,000-acre part. It's the world's largest network of lands and waters set aside for wildlife conservation. Our association was funded in 1975. The Refuge Association's mission is to conserve America's wildlife for future generations. Our group rallies together refuge friends groups, volunteers, birders, hunters, anglers, ranchers, students, and other conservation nonprofits to create a collective voice for the refuge system. The Refuge Association also mobilizes hundreds of volunteer refuge friends groups and thousands of private citizens across the country to tackle the challenges facing America's national wildlife refuges. And a border wall that dissects the Santa Ana National Wildlife Refuge is clearly one of the greatest challenges that we face today. The National Wildlife Refuge Association cares very deeply about Santa Ana National Wildlife Refuge, and I do too. I care very deeply about what happens here at Santa Ana. Before coming to work for the Refuge Association, I worked for the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service for over 35 years. My last job that I left 2 years ago, I was the regional director in Alaska, where there's also a fair amount of things that we're fighting that's coming from the Trump administration, like the Arctic National Wildlife Refuge. Before that, I was the chief of the National Wildlife Refuge System in D.C., and before that, I was the deputy regional director in Albuquerque, New Mexico, where I had oversight over this area. So I spent a lot of time here. About 15 years ago was the last time I was here. It's a great honor to be back here again. So the border, and you all know this better than I do, it's home to more than 180 federally threatened and endangered species. At refuges all across the border, many species rely on these refuges for their continued existence. Jaguars, ocelots, jaguarundis roam the border. In fact, the recovery of the jaguar is tied to larger populations across this international boundary. The Santa Ana Refuge was established 75 years ago under the authority of the Migratory Bird Treaty Act, and the Fish and Wildlife Service began buying the lands to provide refuges for birds and other wildlife. I'm told, and I believe that it's true, that there is more animal and plant diversity in this 2,000-acre refuge than any other refuge or park in the United States of America. And yet today we are facing the impossible possibility of an enormous, giant, concrete wall, levee, abomination to destroy so much of that progress. As I mentioned, last time I was here was 15 years ago. There were no border walls here, and so a lot of you probably know Jim Chapman, who I've known for many years. I don't know if he's here today or not, but he brought my colleague and myself out yesterday to go see the border wall, and it was just horrible to see it, because the last time I here, none of that existed over on parcels on the Lower Rio Grande National Wildlife Refuge. So this abomination destroys so much of the progress made in the last 75 years to protect all these species and habitat. At some points along the wall, he told me that it's actually, when it's built, it's actually going to be taller and higher than the Great Wall of China. That's unbelievable. Just next door, I hear the government's already hard at work starting on a wall at the 100-acre National Butterfly Center. Now, I've never been there. It sounds like a beautiful, wonderful place, but I hear that chainsaws and mowers are already cutting down trees and vegetation there. It's a horrible thing. The Border Patrol, however, says that they have all the authority they need to enter any property within 25 miles of the international border. If the wall is constructed, we'll leave 2/3 of this wonderful sanctuary's land on the other side of the wall. And these threats to the butterfly sanctuary are the exact same ones that are heading towards the Santa Ana National Wildlife Refuge. All across the border, there are enormous problems with the wall. There's usually dozens of environmental protections and laws that normally would absolutely keep this wall from being built. But the Department of Homeland Security has a very unique waiver authority that allows them to go forward regardless of the impacts of the needs of the natural world, and here at Santa Ana National Wildlife Refuge. The wall will permanently fragment habitat, destroy wildlife corridors and foraging areas, and imperil an ecosystem whose entire purpose is to serve as a place of refuge. The wall destroys much of what the refuge was established to protect. And as I said, I spent 38 years with the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. I was always honored to work for this service. It was a great honor for me to be involved with places like Santa Ana Refuge. I saw a quote just the other day from Ansel Adams, the great photographer, who said, "It is horrifying that we have to fight our own government to save the environment." And I think that just rings very true to me, that I can't believe I'm in a position where I'm here fighting the United States of a government over this wall. So my final comments are, it just is such an honor to be here. I've been very moved by every presentation that's been done today. Many environmental groups stand in strong solidarity with all the different things I heard today. Santa Ana Refuge is not a place where a wall should be built, and we hope it never ever happens. And with all of your help and the help across America and making sure that the public is more aware of this and light is shown on this, we'll do everything we can to make sure it never happens. So thank you very much for allowing me to be here and be part of this.